Alright, what's going on, guys? Try back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing a Q&A type of video for today. Going to give some updates here for Walking Dead stuff. Don't have too much, but we've got a couple new items. One, we've got a recent interview from Vulture with Steven Yeun, who of course played Glenn, reflecting on the character a little bit. And another one of some pretty sweet baby pictures. So first link will be in the description to NME.com with Steven Yeun, who reflects on playing Glenn. So he says, I might not be objective, but I truly feel like people didn't know what to do with Glenn. They liked him, they had no problems with him, and people enjoyed him, but they didn't acknowledge the connection people had with the character until he was gone. And I would agree with that. This is me talking now, that's the quote for the first part, but I would agree with that people didn't really, I think, appreciate Glenn as much until he was gone. It's kind of one of those things that you don't appreciate what you have until it's gone, right? I think there's songs, that kind of thing, with that phrase in it. Or quote in it. And, that's true. Glenn was a really cool character. I think it's just because people were so used to seeing him in the show, they probably couldn't really imagine The Walking Dead without him, because if you look back in the show, I mean, his first appearance is kind of in the premiere. I mean, and he's a heavy concentration after that, because he's like the first one, the first kind of new zombie apocalypse character that Rick really meets once he gets to Atlanta there. Hey, you in the tank, cozy in there. So he's in the show from the very beginning up until the end of season 6 or season 7 premiere when he's killed off in his final episode. So and it was really, really cool to have him in the show. It was really cool to see him kind of do the different tasks and things that he had to do and run around and different adventures and stuff like that with Noah or Nicholas or the others. And it still feels like something's missing because Glenn is not in the show. But I think it's just that's kind of like what it is. He was a super strong support character, probably a B-lister a lot of the time. I'd say he becomes an A-lister, by the time he's killed off because, of course, of his relationships. The amount of time he gets in the series. How just a lot of his relationships that he had with the different characters like Dale and Maggie, of course, and even Herschel and Rick and some of the others as well too. Really do miss seeing Glenn, and I think a lot of viewers do as well too, after he was killed off. So really learned to appreciate it once he wasn't there anymore, and missions just didn't feel as exciting or the same. Really cool runner character to have, and really fun character in the show. So he continued, externally, it was tough sometimes because I never felt like he got his fair due. I never felt like he got it from an outward perception. And I think that's the nature of the beast. When you're a support character, when you're playing Glenn or somebody like that in a show like The Walking Dead, you're not Rick, right? So Rick is going to get most of the credit. He's going to get most of the glory. He's going to be the character on the DVD covers for the most part until Negan shows up, and then that's a bit different. But because Glenn is really a heavy support character, he's never going to be, I think, your standout lead type of character in the show, unless some of the others are killed off, and then he kind of assumes that. Maggie has kind of become more like that, but Maggie's kind of gotten more over because of the loss of Glenn. With losing Glenn, it helps propel Maggie into like A-list, A-plus list type status, right up there close to Rick and Daryl and some of the others. Norman Reedus got there kind of on his own, I want to say, because he probably shouldn't be an A-lister. He kind of made it happen himself, and kind of the way the character he had some creative control with the character as well too, because it was kind of a manifestation of himself because he didn't have a comic counterpart. Steven Yeun was in a box. There's nothing he could have done probably any better than he did do, because it was already set up that he was the issue 100 death, and they didn't want to change that. It would have been cool to see them change that and do something else, but Kirkman wants it to stay pretty close. People were really pissed off when they changed Andrea, so they decided, it sounds like, to keep it pretty much the same there. Definitely not his fault, but just the nature of what the character was, that he was a support character, I think, and he's not a standout like Rick or Daryl, or even Maggie is going to be in the future, right? I don't say this as a knock on anything. He always had to be a part of something else to legitimize himself, and I think that's that's the nature of a support character, right? Is that you have him there, but he's always going to have to be, you know, part. I'm trying to think if there's ever an episode in The Walking Dead where Glenn is like the A lead for that episode. I'm trying to think, and I can't really think of one. He's always support. He's always there with somebody else or something else, and that's just the nature of what he is. I don't think he ever was really intended to be that kind of a character. Except there was a time with Woodbury there when he did kind of fight off the zombies all by himself. So he did have, you know, he had lots of spotlight moments himself too. But majority of the time, he's not like Rick. He's going to be, you know, helping the others as well too. And you need characters like that. Not everybody can be your Rick, right? It's just what it is. A lot of the other characters are awesome characters, the actor said, but they're exactly that. They're awesome and they're to be in awe of. I wish I was that guy or that girl. Well, you know, I mean, you need, but in order to have that guy or that girl, you need Glens and you need people like that in order to build them up. Because if you don't have those support characters like that, you can't get Maggie over in the same way. You can't get a Rick and get the others without a lot of the other characters to kind of build them up. You have to have a Shane, you know, to get Rick over to that level where people are like, you know, really, really, really buying into it. And maybe even if you have Lori, it doesn't work as well either as there too. You need those other characters in order to build up, I think, and to get those characters to the level of popularity and you know, focus that they have gotten to in The Walking Dead. So pretty cool to hear him just kind of reflect on Glenn a little bit and what Glenn is and what Glenn isn't. Maybe him just feeling a little bit, you know, maybe just a little, it sounds like a little bit of bad taste in his mouth that Glenn never got to be one of those kind of main Walking Dead, you know, but I think he kind of did too in his own way, maybe in death sort of, you know, that he did people really realize how important he was, and if they rewatch the show, they're probably going to really appreciate those Glenn moments more because he was killed off in such a fashion, and a lot of people who didn't read the comics never saw it coming, and they were so used to seeing him there that it wasn't until he was gone that you realized, like, you know, how awesome he really was. So the next one is just pure fan service. That's it. Link will be in the description. You guys gotta check this out, girls. I like it so much, but it's just click the link. Just click the link and see. It says in the article says comicbook.com, The Walking Dead. Now Rosita Espinosa, actress Kristen Serratos, is calling out trolls in a style which Eugene would be proud of. Fighting fire with fire. The actress is responding to vulgar negativity with some vulgar shots of her own. This is awesome. Oh, stop looking for attention. Yes, you could feed your baby in public. Who cares? But why purposely draw attention to it? One Instagram troll wrote, or I guess he wrote that. I'm assuming it's a he. It could be a she, right? It could be a she. I don't know. With another chiming in for why at least show the more. Despite hundreds or thousands of comments pouring into the actress's post, she skimmed through them, enough of them to spot the negative remarks and come up with trolling of her own. You know, it's the internet, right? It's just the kind of stuff. You know, usually I hate this kind of, but in this case I love it. Which sees her, you know, new baby captioned, this is my body and my page. So I'll post what I want when I want. Those who disapprove can suck my left. Just to say, you better watch what you threaten people with, because I think a lot of people are going to start. I mean, I might disapprove as well, right? According to those, the way this is set up, with a couple of hashtags to go with it. So check it out. Super cute baby, very, very. So check it out if you guys haven't seen it. That's all for that one. Let's move on. It's pretty sweet though. Drew McCole says, hey Trev, I have a question for Q&A. Do you think that JDM hasn't been seen in filming because they are working on a backstory episode for Negan? This would really only require him, so he might be filming with some other actors or actresses that are not currently in the show. What are your thoughts? Love the videos. From Drew McCole. And you know, I like that a lot. That's a really good prediction, I think, for an episode, because we're used to seeing like maybe in episode 4 or 5, something like that. some kind of flashback or something of the sort. You know, they've done it quite a bit, and I think it works out really well. I think for the flow of the season, it makes sense because you have a big premiere, you have a couple of pretty good episodes after the premiere, then you put in maybe a flashback episode to fill out the first half, and then you build to the mid-season finale. So I really like that. And you might be right, maybe that's exactly what they're doing. I'm personally, you know, a huge fan of Negan. I love to see Negan in the show. I love Here's Negan, which is going to be released in October as an individual trade, which I'll do a review when that hits for you guys. And, you know, really looking forward to that. So you might be right that maybe they could do, you know, some kind of flashback episode. I know there's some fan ones, some fan trailer ones online using clips from like some of his movies and stuff. They're not real. They're not official, but it'd be really cool to see a flashback backstory episode for Negan. I think like a whole episode. And it could make sense if there's a battle in the premiere and Negan and the Saviors get pushed in. Let's say they get pushed into the sanctuary or something, and then they're just kind of like waiting or something for maybe some of the zombies to get cleared out or go away. That you could have, you know, Negan go into some kind of flashback where he like falls asleep or something, waiting for the zombies to back off or something, like a no way out for the Saviors. And as he's kind of sitting there, you have him kind of, you know, fall asleep and then have it do some kind of flashback and then have him wake up and realize where he's at and then maybe, you know, barge out there and start killing zombies or something. So it could be smooth in that way. They could do it, and maybe you're right, but I just personally, you know, I'd really love to see a backstory episode at some point, a flashback episode somewhere for Negan. I'd really like to see this year because I think he's one of the best. And see, there's another example of what Glenn does. Glenn doesn't just help Rick get over and Maggie become more popular and get over. He also helps Negan become that much more of a bad guy because, you know, and that much more interesting and get people's attention. Because Negan has somebody important to kill, now Negan becomes a more important, more, serious bad guy. You take him more seriously than you would Joe of the Claimers, who doesn't really kill anybody, who doesn't really have that level of introduction. Negan gets that, you know, issue 100 huge introduction by killing off Glenn. You need a death like that in order for Negan to become, you know, that reputable or that big of a bad guy. Next one comes from Jason Lives 666. He says, the two most unpopular opinions in Walking Dead fandom these days. Number one, being more of a fan of Fear the Walking Dead in the original series, and that's so true, right? If you're more of a fan of Fear the Walking Dead than the original, then definitely that's an unpopular opinion. And two, losing interest in the main show, no doubt about it. So I would agree with Jason, you know, here that very unpopular opinions, but they're ones that are out there quite a bit. They're ones that we're definitely seeing a lot right now. I think with Fear the Walking Dead season 3 having been so strong so far in the first half, and then of course also. The Walking Dead going its 8th season. It's been going for a long time. And, when I was a kid and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was hot, I remember, like, it was just everywhere. T-shirts, figures, merchandise, cereal, whatever you can think of, you name it. Turtles was everywhere. And then I think it was like season 6 or 7 or 8, something like that. Yeah, it was probably 7, 8, or 9 that they started doing these Red Sky episodes, stuff like this. I forget exactly the season numbers, but something like that. And people started to, like, people had grown up, right? And they weren't into it anymore. And so, it started to kind of lose a lot of steam. It's really hard for them, I think, anybody to keep a show going for that many seasons and keep it growing. It is really, really tough. We'll do a couple more. Cigar Nixica says, do you feel that The Walking Dead has a finite story, Trev? And he says, I kind of borrowed this question from your last Better Call Saul video because they have confirmed that Better Call Saul has a finite set story. So does The Walking Dead also have a finite set story? I don't think so. I think the original premise of The Walking Dead from Kirkman, and that's his genius, I'd say, and his whole idea and why it worked and why other series like Invincible that he's done haven't been as successful. So far, we'll see what Seth Rogen can do with the movie with that, because I think it has got a lot of potential as well, too. But the reason why The Walking Dead, I think, works so well is because it's never really been done before in that capacity. It's never been done. Marvel and DC, for example, cannot get their shit together and actually do some kind of long-running story that makes sense without rebooting it to issue 1 and starting it over again. These reboots, it's rough for fans, man. We want to get into something, and even though some of us do burn out over the years, I think, we also appreciate a great story that's long running, and eventually we might get back into it and get caught up, which I find as well too. For a lot of fans, rebooting it is exciting. But, you know, having it just go on in a well-crafted manner long term, I think is the way to go ultimately if you want to keep people into something and not just reboot it again and, you know, restart it, recast Rick, recast everybody and do it. It's like, screw off. I think that The Walking Dead does have, you know, a long-term story, and it's not really finite. I think it can even out-survive Rick at this point. And I think we're starting to see the seeds be planted for other characters to kind of, you know, become, you know, leads on their own, right? You've got Morgan episodes. You've got, you know, in the comics, you got Negan stuff going. You got maybe even a Negan backstory, things like that. You've got Maggie becoming big. So I think it can out-survive Rick, and I don't think it has a finite story. As long as Kirkman's healthy and writing and everything, I think we're good to go for a long time. And it should be one. It should go down as one of the best comic book series runs ever. You know, I really think it should. You know, especially that amount of time and dedication. That's amazing to see, and it's pretty rare to see the same writer continue with the same kind of story in North America for that many years. And in Japan, it happens more with anime and manga. Anyway, that'll be it for today's video, guys. Let me know what you think. Write those comments below. Check out those pictures. Check out those links. And if you like this video, please thumb it up below. You can also share it, favorite. And if you're new and you want to subscribe, you can subscribe at the bottom left. That's it for this one. I'll see you guys again soon for another video. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. See you soon.